Right now, we're going to bring Langston on, Mr. Great Beard of Knowledge. I'm looking for you here. Here we go. Langston, where are you? There we go.
What's good, homie? Hey, can you guys hear me okay? Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you fine. Yep.
All right, cool.
Yep.
You know, I don't want to have any technical difficulties.
Yep. Everyone, I would like to welcome Mr. Langston White. So Langston used to work at New York Life, and he has started the Wealth Advocacy Group.
Over there with Max, man. Me and Max, we used to be brothers in arms.
Yep. So him and Max worked at the same company. And so Langston has since left New York Life,
defected
podcast, and started the Wealth Advocacy Group. So without further ado, Mr. Great Beard of Knowledge.
With a K.
Yes. You gotta spell. You gotta say the words the way they spell.
You gotta say how it's spelled, man. Don't mess it up. So in all seriousness, man, the reason I left New York Life, and shout out to you, Max, man, you did a great job really breaking it. I had my notes down too. So the reason I got out of the game, so to speak, was because the majority of people I was sitting in front of didn't have the disposable income to invest, right? So a lot of my clients fell into that 49% of Americans that live paycheck to paycheck. You know, like 40% of Americans couldn't incur a $400 expense and survive it. So COVID-19 is really putting that to the test. It's putting that percentage of Americans under a tremendous amount of stress because, you know, if you're in that top 51% of Americans who aren't living paycheck to paycheck and you get laid off, no big deal. But if there's any kind of cash interruption, they cut your hours back as a consequence of the pandemic or businesses not being in operation, the kind of clients I have are the ones that would be most dramatically impacted because they're paycheck to paycheck. So I just wanted to get on here, and I know we kind of talked about this earlier, but give some real pragmatic talking points for how to navigate this period of time, not from an investor standpoint, but from a day-to-day practical financial standpoint. So I know you had some questions for me. Is there anywhere you wanted to start?
Well, let's just start off with how COVID-19 has affected your clients and your business since we've been on quarantine and everything, and we're trying to find this vaccine, man. Just let the people know how it's been affecting you and the people you help.
So first off, I want to say to everybody out there listening to this, if you're going through any kind of financial hardship, you are in very good company. You are not alone. That's the majority of Americans right now are dealing with, and as you know, I'm so sorry, I didn't catch your name, but the first woman on the stream was pointing out banks are working with people. You pointed out earlier that banks are giving reprieves to people, but you got to pick up that phone and let people know that's happening. So don't feel alone. Like if you're experiencing a situation where you got your hours cut back, you got furloughed or laid off, you're in good company. But a lot of people in these categories have a nest egg they don't even know about. They got a life preserver they're completely oblivious to. And that's some of that money that you saved up while you were working there. Every month, they might have been taking money out of your check, or every week they were taking out money out of your check and throwing it into a preferred, like a 401k.
Hey, Langston, it's cutting out a little bit. I don't know, the audio is cutting out a little bit. It's cutting out. I ain't hear anything you said just now.
Can you hear me now? Check.
Yep. You know.
All right. We're gonna old school, no technology. So so what I was saying was a lot of people every month they got money coming out of their check going someplace, right? If you're in Massachusetts, you work for the state, you got a smart plan. You know, if you were working for a commercial company, you got a 401k, and if you work for like a school or something like a pension, you got a 403b or something. My advice to you is if you're staring down the barrel of repossession, eviction, your life is about to fall apart, and that might not happen today because everybody's kind of playing nice, right? Nobody's been hurt too bad by the inability to generate money because commerce as we know it is stopped. So banks are being nice. Banks are like, hey man, pay me next week. Don't worry about it. No big deal. You know, but it's true. You know,
Never
like
happened.
everybody's like, hey man, let's bail out all these restaurants and stuff. Everybody's being super cool. It's amazing. But trust me, if this goes on for another month or 2 months, people are gonna be looking for their money like Debo. They're gonna be coming to your hood on a beach cruiser to collect their money. So if that's the case, like you've got these little retirement nest eggs, and don't let anyone talk you out of using that money to survive, because you know that might be retirement money. That might be money you're saving until you're 70 or 65. But if you can't make it out of this COVID-19 reality that we're living in 2020, it doesn't even matter. You know, so one of my key pieces is to survive today, to live to fight another day. The other piece is, you know, you're going to have money because Donald Trump is cutting these checks, and it's not going to get there as quickly as possible because he had to write his name on all the checks, which is, you know, narcissistic in and of its own, right? But, you know, shout out to D Trump. He does it big, whatever. But I know, I hope his hand catches a cramp. Anyway, so you're going to get this money. And the question is, what do you do with it? Now, a lot of people are like, yo, a couple $100, I can get into the market. But if you don't have several months of expenses laying around, you need to build that first. So like if you're building a finance, right? If you're building a house and the foundation of that house is unstable, it's going to fall apart. It's going to fall in. And Max would tell you the exact same thing. You know, if you've got an emergency reserve cash and you've got life insurance and you've got health insurance, you're going to be able to stave off most things. The reality is half of Americans don't have those things. So what I am strongly advocating is build that emergency reserve cash. That's a must. But get life insurance, bro. Like the reality is not everybody's going to survive this. That's just the fact of the situation. And while these companies are still allowing you to get life insurance, get it. Like, don't tempt fate, because there's no reason not to have it. And there may become a time in the very near future when this COVID reality gets a little more real and you won't be able to get it. There's a potential that insuring guidelines will change to protect insurance companies that may not have the cash reserves necessary to guard against the risk of a whole bunch of people dying at once. So don't screw around with that stuff, man. Like just get it, have it. And like for if you've got elderly in your family and you could never afford to make that payment, I know a lot of people come to me or used to come to me all the time and be like, hey, my grandmother is 80 or she's 75. Is it too late for her to get insurance? And I'm like, yo, that's going to cost a fortune. I'm not going to hold you. It's going to be a lot of money. But if you attack it as a group and all the grandchildren or all the siblings get together and co-pay that as a group, in the event that she doesn't come out of this pandemic, she's able to create an instant legacy. You know, I'm sure that's what your loved ones that are older will want for you anyway. And then in the event that she does come out on the other end, you have a choice to make. You can either keep paying that ridiculous premium or you can stop paying that premium, you know, once they come up with a vaccine and the prospects of a world without COVID-19 being a pandemic becomes more clear, then you can stop making that premium. But if it takes 6 people to cut up $2,000 every month to create an instant windfall of $100,000 or $250,000, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah, true. That's a smart suggestion, man. Yeah, all right. Yeah, very smart suggestion, man. Yeah, that's not something that I really thought about before either, man. You know, I
mean,
know
there's very, very few things that happen in life that are guarantees, you know,
true.
but you leaving this, checking out of this one is a guarantee. Sooner or later, you're going to leave this planet. You know, and whether or not it's in the midst of the best handled pandemic response in history, or whether or not it's the consequence of, you know, unforeseen circumstances, nobody dies on time. So taking into consideration that no one dies on time, there's one thing you can do to guarantee certain outcomes, and that's working with an establishment. Shout out to you, Max. Call this cat if you want some life insurance too. I'm sure either he can write or he can connect you with someone connect with a company that's reputable. Now, I'm not going to take a shot at anybody. Part of the reason I can take these shots is because, like, I'm not directly in the game anymore. I got nothing to sell, so to speak.
Yep.
So, but what I will say is New York Life is one of the oldest, best established companies in the world with a surplus of money to pay everything down. So if you have a life insurance policy that's with a cut rate, no name, fly by night insurance company, sure, they're going to be able to pay the life insurance benefit virtually under any circumstance. But this isn't virtually any circumstance. This is a circumstance where the whole world has caught a flu and not everybody's going to come out of it. And you don't want to be the one that gets the check that bounces in the event of someone that you had insured, or your spouse, husband, child, parent. You don't want to be the one to get the check that bounces because that company wasn't properly moneyed to handle a situation like this. And the last thing I want to recommend, and this is major key. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yep, hear you.
This is check it. Like, if you already have life insurance, like, hooray for you, pat yourself on the back. If you already have an estate plan, congratulations, I'm clapping for you. Go back and revisit all of that stuff, because this happened to me personally. I had a loved one that passed away, and her ex-husband, who she hated, was listed as a beneficiary on a bunch of stuff, right? And her kids and her family were disinherited because they just weren't updating that stuff. And, like, in the midst of a global pandemic, this is the time to update all the estate documents. Check the beneficiaries on your life insurance. Call your HR department while you're sitting at home, you know, watching the soaps, and be like, hey, who's listed to get all my stuff in the event that something happens? Check with your HR department to see what insurance they already have in place on you, right? So you might have a policy that you didn't know about, or worse, you'll find out that you didn't have the coverage you thought you had. Like, you'll have some kind of weird double indemnity policy where you only get paid if you fall down a flight of stairs at work making copies while, you know, going to the break room, and then your family gets screwed. So, like, get that stuff. You ain't got nothing better to do than read small print and make sure you have exactly what you thought you had, because there's nothing worse than, at the end of the day, someone you know and you love and you care about passes away, and you have one of those virtual funerals, and you're waiting to get that check to pay for the funeral arrangements or to pay the mortgage off, and that check never comes. You know, so make sure that's not a reality that happens to you.
Ooh-wee. Thank you, Langston.
No doubt.
That was, oh man, that was a great follow-up to Max and Rochelle and everything, man. Thank you for dropping knowledge today.
Knowledge. Oh, and, like, I'm dropping this knowledge every Monday. So, like, if you haven't, check me out, follow me. I'm always dropping jewels. Every episode comes out on Mondays, and it's about the financial freedom trail off the proverbial plantation of 9 to 5. Definitely. So get at me 100%.
Yep. Once again, guys, if you want, follow Langston, hit the 2 profiles up here. You should click on that. You can go to Langston's profile, follow him. And get
good look, I appreciate you.
This man follow. No problem, Langston, man. Thank you. And everybody tuning into Langston's World.
Share Tony. Yo, thank you guys for tuning in, no doubt.
Yep. All right. Thanks a lot, brother.